Another important topic as you prepare for the 291 test, and one that'll probably save you a lot of time and headache in the real world, is to integrate Active Directory and DNS. There are lots of advantages to this, and we'll talk about some of the advantages in this and in other modules throughout this chapter, but for now we just want to go ahead and implement Active Directory and DNS integration. Now, one of the things that this requires, and this probably goes without saying, is that it requires Active Directory. Right now, I don't have Active Directory installed on this computer, so I'll have to configure it before I make my zone Active Directory integrated. You can create Active Directory integrated zones either as you set up the zone, as you saw when we added zones earlier, or you can upgrade the zones at a later time, or you can do it at the time you install Active Directory. You can also set up your DNS server if it's not there. Now, that's not the solution that we'll take for right now, because we'll work with an existing DNS solution. And remember, this doesn't necessarily have to reside on a Windows DNS server, and we'll talk about that topic later on as well. But we already have a zone called beanlake.org. We have records in that zone. So we're going to use this existing information, and that's going to serve as the namespace for our Active Directory domain. They would be called the same things, but they are two separate logical entities. The domain, the DNS domain beanlake.org, and the Active Directory domain beanlake.org. This is a collection of resource records, of IP address to name mappings. Active Directory is a collection of our computing resources, shares, users, computers, and so on. So they are two separate things. It can be a little confusing because they're often called the same thing. Let's go ahead and implement Active Directory first with the program called dcpromo. Start, run, dcpromo is how you launch this. You can also configure your server to do the same thing. So I'll quickly go through this. Again, this is not a lesson about dcpromo or Active Directory. So we're just going to create a domain controller for a new domain. We're going to create a new forest of domains. The DNS name for the new domain is going to be beanlake.org. What's happening now is that my computer is checking with its configured DNS server, in this case the local DNS server, to see if there are records for this domain. There are. If there were not, you might be prompted, or you would be prompted to set up DNS, and this automates the entire process. It installs DNS, it configures the correct zone, and it populates that zone with the information that Active Directory requires. But that thing already exists, the zone, the domain already exists, the records for that domain. So all that's going to happen here is we're going to add some additional Active Directory records to that zone file. Now, BIOS name is beanlake, database folders, shared system volume folder, and then here's the DNS registration and diagnostics. This is what happened as I configured, or I typed in the name beanlake.org. There's the zone. The test completed successfully, so this verifies DNS support for Active Directory. It exists. Permissions page, restore mode password, and then summary, next, and here is the Active Directory installation wizard. In the next module, we'll take a look at the actual records that are configured. This takes about 10 minutes or so, depending on the speed of your computer, sometimes longer. When we're done, in the next module, we'll show how to actually upgrade an existing zone to Active Directory integrated. We'll also take a peek at exactly what files were added.